Love is beautiful, but let's be real, it ain't always easy. We've been through the storms, the highs, the lows, and everything in between.
But through it all, we made a choice again and again. We chose love, we chose commitment, we chose us.
Because marriage isn't just about saying I do, it's about choosing to stay.
Welcome to We Chose Us, because love is worth the fight. Welcome to episode number 2. Y'all made it through the first one. I hope y'all liked it. It was very interesting. If you didn't hear it, you need to go back and listen to it. I am Rob, and this is Kris, and this is the We Chose Us ministry, or I should say We Chose Us Marriage and Relationship podcast.
Yeah.
And this is our second episode, like I was saying, and this episode is going to be built kind of like on the last one. It's called When Pastoring is the Pitstop. You heard us talk about our journey in the last one, and we're probably going to dig a little bit deeper. And I want to start this like off the rip, like, because you and I have talked about this before. Mm-hmm. Pastoring, we stopped May 2021. Are you still a pastor? Inquiring minds would like to know.
So I look at it as pastoring is a calling. It's what God called us to do. The calling, the vision, the assignment was 100% God. There's no way I would have pastored without God leading and guiding at least me to pastor.
Yeah.
And so I would say when we closed the building, did that stop the assignment? Absolutely not. So
some people have say though that because you don't have no church building that you ain't no pastor.
It's still an assignment. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's still an assignment is I believe I may not pastor in a building, but I'm definitely God is still leading me to shepherd souls. There are still people today who call me pastor. Not that I'm moved by titles whatsoever, but it's more so I would say the assignment. You can call me Kris, and I still believe God called me to pastor as an assignment.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, no, call me Pastor Kris. Absolutely not. You can call me Kris, Krislin, Chrissy, whatever nickname you have given me. But I still believe that God has me on the assignment, if that makes any sense. But I'm not moved by titles whatsoever. You know, like I say, call me my first name. Just don't call me my middle name. But
or what?
Sharita.
Sharita. Y'all don't want to meet Sharita. Y'all don't want to meet Sharita. Let me meet Sharita. I've met Sharita, and we're going to put Sharita back where she need to be, in the middle.
Not in the middle.
Not where she need to be seen.
Not in the middle. We're going to put her back in the middle.
Put her back in the middle name.
But no, I feel like it is an assignment. It is a calling. And I don't believe that God revokes, the assignment that he has kind of put you on, or the purpose, based off of the process or based how he leads you. I don't think he says, strip you of that.
Why do you think people do that though? Like, why do you think people have to put you with a building or like with a congregation? And because people will even pull out a scripture and they'd be like, well, the qualifications of a leader or a pastor or a bishop and all these different things, like, and I get it from the scriptural standpoint, and a lot of people will just build off of that. But like, why do you? Because you ain't nothing about a building in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because that was ecclesia anyway, so that wasn't even about having a building. But why do you think people kind of like put that together?
I think for 2 reasons. I think reason number 1 is people are infatuated with titles. I would say that number 1.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just like doctor, attorney, pastor. People are infatuated with that title. And I think when people equate pastoring to, I don't think it's just a building. I think it's not only did God call me to this, but I think there's a level of I earned this. Right? Because I have so-and-so amount of members, and I have gone through A, B, C, D, E, F, G to have this particular church and to be qualified to call a pastor. And so I think it at some point transitions from just an assignment or calling to I earned this title. And I think that's why people kind of connected to such, and so when the building closed, it's like, oh, you ain't no pastor. You don't do what I do on a daily basis. You don't have to take care of these people and have this particular team or have this particular building of X amount of people and worry about tithes, offering, finances, and so much more, right? And so it's like, you no longer have to deal with that. So you're not a pastor anymore. And I think they have lost sight of the original assignment or calling, rather.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, just like an attorney, if the attorney lost its practice, that doesn't mean it's no longer an attorney. If a doctor doesn't practice medicine anymore, that doesn't mean they're no longer a doctor.
Yeah, sure.
So why does it have to change when it's, being a pastor? And I think that's where we miss it, is because even in the church realm, which is so unfortunate, we look at comparison. We look at how many members you have versus how many members this person has, or how many years this person has been in ministry versus how many years this person has been in ministry. How much money is this church bringing in versus this church and that church? How well known is this pastor versus that pastor? And it should all just be about God. Where has God appointed you? Where has God called you? What are you fulfilling the call on your life? Because the fulfillment of the call is not about being popular. It's about impact. Are you making an impact in this earth? Are you allowing God to use you as a vessel to move in the lives and the hearts of people who need to encounter God? And that's, to me, is about moving the assignment. I think when we reject the assignment just because we're scared of the title, then we are not giving God capacity to use us in the way that he desires. And so, I believe that is, one of the main reasons. I forgot number 2 because I feel like that just took over. But but I really feel like it is religion and tradition. I think that is it as well. It plays a traditional and religious role. And that tends to overshadow just the authenticity of who God is and what he's called us to do. So
yeah, I think that. So some months back, everybody was coming at Ty Tribbett for saying that, like, talking about the systems was whack at church and stuff like that. And so many people, they want to group everything together. Like you can't have a problem with the church. But we all know we have seen some major problems in the church. And I feel like number one, you should be okay with exposing or addressing the issues that we have seen in the church over the years. And that doesn't change the functionality of the church. That doesn't change what the church is supposed to be doing. That is just bringing to light some error around it, right? And I think that even when it comes to things such as that, like, I've had people tell me that, no, you know what I mean? Like, you're not a pastor anymore. You don't have a church. I mean, I've had our spiritual parents, they still call us pastor.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the most humbling things. When I have people like them or the Brazeltons or even others that I might see or people might reach out to me on Facebook, they still say, hey, Pastor Rob. Like, it takes me back a little bit because I'm being like, they see something and it's not just a title.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They see the function of
the anointing.
They see the anointing. They see the responsibility. They respect they respect the hustle that went down them 7 years, and they still call me that. And I like that's a humbling feeling.
Yeah. The calling. The assignment.
Yeah.
Closing a building doesn't cancel the assignment.
Yeah.
I'm still 100% committed to the souls that God sends my way to connect with him. And to me, that is pastoring, that's shepherding, that's leading, that's guiding. The amount of counseling calls I may have, or the amount of people who still connect to me and have yet to find a building as a home, even though I try to lead them to finding a community, to commit to or to be, a member, or to become a member of, but still, I believe that God can use us in different capacities. We are the church.
Yeah.
We are the source of of God to lead people and guide them closer to him. And so does closing a actual building mean that the call is canceled? Absolutely not. It is all about just committing yourself to God. And I think when we get to a place where we're not moved by what people think, then we can open up our capacity to be used by God however he desires to use us. Because I think if we were so moved on what people thought about us, then we would have, when we closed that door to the church, we would have stopped ministry as a whole. But I refuse. God is the final authority, in my life. And so wherever God is leading me, whatever God has called me to do, I am 100% committed to that. Other people may judge and may feel like you're not qualified or you no longer earn that title. Well, if it's just a title to you, that's you. But it's an assignment for me. It is where God has called and positioned me. And as I'm on this earth, I'm going to fulfill the purpose that he's predestined for me to fulfill. That is how I live and breathe, is making sure I'm allowing God to fully use me in the capacity for which he desires. And that's it.
Yeah. So as part of the weekly, what do you miss?
I think I miss the weekly. It's because when you're in it, you complain, right? Because you're like, it's so much.
Sunday come every week,
Yeah,
every 7 days, got another message to preach.
But it's not even, I think as we had a church plant, so we had not yet had enough hands to kind of delegate into multiple areas.
Yeah.
And so we were in control of those particular areas. So I think the weekly for us was a bit overwhelming because we had a lot going on, in the administration side of things, in the tech side of things, in the membership side of things, in the events area, in the almost like project management. We had to be project managers in addition to being pastors, and we had to be counselors, and we had to be event coordinators. And we had to, be preachers and make sure, we were hearing from God on the word that was coming forth on Sunday. So I think it was just the overall busyness of things. Even though in it was like, oh, I can't wait till we can assign somebody or appoint somebody over here and over there. But I miss that. I miss being in the dirt, right? I miss being in that space of busyness of what can we do this week? What can we do this month, or what can we do this Sunday? And that excitement of, man, somebody's life may be changed or transformed by this, or someone's being drawn closer to God through this, or somebody's going to be saved or introduced to Jesus because of this word, or because of this event, or because of what we're doing here. Somebody's child is going to be introduced to Jesus because of how we're laying out and orchestrating the children's ministry. I think I miss all of that.
Yeah.
Though it was a complaint then, because it was so much going on, I miss that.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I miss the community. I definitely miss the community. And because we had a team, I know we said on the last episode, like we had a team of folks. If y'all don't know that we love y'all, we love us some bartenders, okay? Like we love all of y'all because they were even how bad things could get, when we got around them, it was all happiness, joy, fun. We could argue and all this type of stuff, and people would get. But by the time it was all said and done, that Sunday service was over with, everybody was good.
They were committed.
They was committed. Everybody was good, and so I miss that. I think, like going back and setting up like why I really wanted to call this episode when pastoring is a Pitstop. Pastor Kris is just kind of like, I don't know. But the reason why is like I think about races, F1 races or NASCAR races, and I think about that being our journey of life, right? And in our journey of life, we have to pull over and we have to stop and we have to regroup. When you're thinking about those race cars, like the tires are getting low. They need to change the tires. They're running out of gas. They need to be refueled. And all of these different things happen. And they happen in life as well. And so the whole pastoring thing, even though we're still called to it, right? There was that time, that May 2021 was when the car pulled over and we needed to get fixed on. You know what I'm saying? Like the wheels needed changing, the gas needed to be refueled, and all of that stuff needed to happen before we jumped it back into this race called life. And so a lot of people, I feel, are in the same spot when it comes to their church, when it comes to their business, when it comes to something going on in life, to where they just need to like maybe you need to just pull over and you just need to stop and you need to allow things to happen. Because what happens if you stay on the race too long? Your wheels falling off.
Blowouts.
You blowouts. You're crashing into other folks. You actually could end up dying. Like we know pastors that have passed away. We know
Committed suicide.
have committed suicide. Yeah, like we know that if you continue to run that car, and I don't know about y'all, like I've had cars to overheat. And I was always told, like, when your car overheat, you got to pull it over immediately. Don't be trying to get to nobody's house. Don't be trying to get nowhere. Why? Because you're going to warp the head on your engine. And then you're going to have to get the engine shaved down, so you got to replace the head gasket. And that's going to cost more money. Like, and a lot of people in a lot of different spaces are trying to run this thing, and they smoking and fire and crashing and limping, saying, I got to do this for God. I got to do this for God. No, you need to take care of yourself for God. Yeah. You need to pull over. You know what I'm saying? You need to take that pit stop. And that was really my whole framing around this whole episode. It's like so many times people think that you have to do things one way and that's it. Like you have to come hell or high water. This church doors ain't never going to close. Well, you might need to take care of yourself first and then jump back in the race. Because guess what? Ministry is inexhaustible. It's always going to be here. Whether you decide to stop today and pick up 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, ministry is always going to be there, but you ain't. Mm-hmm. And there's so many people that, you know, when we talked about on the last episode, just how I had just really started to like let myself go and all those different things. Now, y'all, me now, like I like looking at myself in the mirror.
Different. And you do.
I like wearing my chains and, you know what I'm saying? I like getting me clothes and stuff like that. Like I like me now.
Which wasn't
I didn't
you
like me. That wasn't me, y'all. That wasn't me. She made me a pretty boy. She did it.
Okay.
You did.
But no, it is totally, a totally different you. But I mean, you're right, because I feel like, you know, when you keep going, you don't have the capacity to pour into anybody. Mm-mm. You don't even have the capacity to help yourself. Mm-mm. Like if we can go back to even like our marriage, when you were broken, I didn't have the capacity to help you, but I felt like I had to help you and help our church. Yeah. So I was like, I feel double stretched, you know? And so it's like you look back on these things and you don't want to let go of the things that God has called you to do, because this is God. Yep. And I don't want, in real talk, the reality is, it's not always just you afraid of being a failure, but it's how you're going to look. What are people going to say? People going to be like, oh, see, I knew they weren't called in the first place. And it's almost like you don't want to give people kind of the answer to their hate, if that makes sense. Because you know there were people hating. Oh, yeah. You know, like, oh, the bar church. I mean, literally, I remember people saying, the bar church, what kind of name is that? They're not going to make it. And when we had to close our doors, that was something going on through my mind, was people saying, like, see, I told you they weren't going to make it. See, I knew something like that wasn't going to make it. And something in you wants to just prove those people wrong, but is it worth your health? Yeah. Is it worth your marriage? Right. Is it worth your life? And it wasn't, and it was like, are people critiques and opinions of you worth you being broken or worth you kind of in this space of shambles and, like you said, overheating and just honestly ultimately getting to this place where you just might die? Yep. Is it worth it? And I had to get to a point where pulling over to the pit stop was better than continuously going and killing myself or killing our marriage just to prove people wrong.
Yep.
Like, you got to get to a point where it's like, I don't care what people think.
Yeah.
What I care about is where God is calling. This is where you really get down on your face and get into the presence of God and get that tunnel vision with him to really say, I more so care, God, about you doing what you need to do in our lives in order for us to encounter you in a way that we need you, in a way that is healing and health and whole to us, rather than trying to prove ourselves to some people who have no impact or have, honestly, no influence in my life whatsoever. But not even that. It's like, I realize people going to talk about you whether you continue pastoring or whether you don't. And so it was a matter of, man, I got to just be whole. That's really, honestly, I think that's what's really causing a lot of people from pulling over. Because I got to win this race. I got to show that I'm a winner. I got to show that I can make it. But you over here flipping and blowing out and overheating just to prove to the crowd that you're a winner.
Yeah. Looking back, you wouldn't have been able to tell me this before. Like, if somebody before would have been like, closing your church is going to be the best thing to happen to you, I'd be like, man, no. But looking back, like, honestly, closing those doors was the best thing to happen. Not just for me and you, for our family. Because, again, it's not like we frame it to be this every Sunday type thing. We frame it to be this title type thing. That's how we frame it. That's how Christians, that's just how we do, right? Mm-hmm. But when I'm at work and I get a colleague reach out to me and talk to me about something that has nothing to do with work, you know what I'm saying? That's when I'm reminded, oh, the call is still on.
Yeah.
When we're in a restaurant and the Lord says to bless somebody, a waitress with $250, $300 or whatever God has told you to do, and that person sits next to you and literally starts crying on your shoulder, talking about, I didn't know how I was going to pay this bill, but I saw you. Like, those are the opportunities. And as long as I'm in those opportunities, I don't care what nobody think. You know what I'm saying? Because God is still using me in a capacity that I never would have thought that I would have been able to be used in. Mm-hmm. The fact that I can get up on tech stages and wrap the word in a tech atmosphere and give people, motivate people, encourage people, and still point back to God, and still point back to you don't quit, you don't give up. Yeah, it's more than just a motivational, y'all got to hear me talk. It's more than a motivational thing, but it's about your faith and where God has you. And like what I'm doing now, like I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Right.
Like, and so I think about sometimes, like, will we ever go back to that every Sunday? You and I have had this discussion. Y'all wondering, like, so y'all gonna do it again? What y'all gonna do? And I don't think we're at odds about it. I think she might think we're at odds about it. I'm not at odds about it. Y'all just know, like I said in the last episode, when I have to get on and when I go, I'm on go. Like, it's no half doing nothing. And so I got to get myself in the framework that, like, we on go, and all this stuff has to be covered. Like, I'm not about having things not be covered and oh yeah, the Lord is going to do. No, like, I'm a methodical, blah, 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 blah. That's how I am. And so wrapping my mind around that. But what do you, I want to hear from you.
So, I mean, I would say we're not at odds. But the calling for me is still there. The assignment, the community, the people. Will we open a church again? I have no idea. But do I feel like that part of me is still there? Absolutely. Do I have dreams and visions of having a church again? Yes. But I can't say like 100% that is the move or the direction in which God is going to lead us in. It may be different. You know, God may lead me to fulfill this assignment in a different capacity. I don't know, but that's why I'm so yielded to him, or just in this space where I'm just like, I'll let you lead in God, because I'm definitely not going to do something you ain't calling me to do.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
And last time,
we
ain't going back to last time.
That ain't going to happen.
Last time was like, one and done.
I want you to be 100% full guidance, all hands on deck. Yeah. You know, and so I don't know, but that assignment, I have, and it's funny because you're 100% tech now, which is amazing, but you tie it up, like you say, tie it up in a way to where people are being blessed and people are encountering God and they ain't even realize it. And they come to you like, did you used to preach or pastor or something? It's crazy.
I've been told that, y'all. That's the funny part.
And so it's amazing. And so I'm fully in ministry, you know, and so that part of me just has not left. But do I feel it's a house divided? Absolutely not. I feel like God has positioned us in our own realms and it's working so well together. And so how God wants to lead us forward is how he does it. But I know when he does it, it's still going to work well together. Yeah. And so that's just kind of how I view it all, you know, which leads me to like the fact that, and you kind of said something, you were like, when you're out, you bless people and or we bless people and so forth like that. Because when we were in Puerto Rico, it was a waitress and God gave me a word for her. And I pulled her aside and it was a direct word. And she was like, how did you know that? You know, she was like, I do this and that at home and you're so detailed. And I said it was God. And she just started crying in the restaurant.
She told a friend.
Right, yeah. And
she called her friend.
Yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, you know. And I said that to say that I remember when we had our church, because of so much that we were dealing with outside of our church, the lack of clarity from God was, I mean, beyond what I can explain. I would hear from God as it pertains to prophetic words and things for people in our church, even outside of our church, but we would rarely move or be obedient to God to certain things when it comes to what we do now outside of our church, because we didn't have that clarity. Right. And it wasn't like God wasn't speaking. We just wasn't listening because we were so caught up in whether it was depression, anxiety, whether it was fear, whether it was our own issues or arguments or frustrations. We weren't hearing clearly enough for God to use us in a capacity for which I believe he's using us now. Yeah. And even when it comes to our church, I believe that we could have made a greater impact if we would have taken a pit stop, you know, and not just a pit stop of that time of closing our church. I think the process led to us closing the church, but I think we could have easily taken a pit stop and just kind of stepped away for a moment to get ourselves together. But we were so headstrong. Like, we not closing this. This is God, that things started falling apart so much that we had to close the doors. But I feel like if we would have taken the time to work on ourselves and honestly invite God in more to hear from him, to be able to know what was happening, then I think things would have been a little different. You know, I'm not disappointed in how things turned out at all, but I do believe that it's so important to work on yourself. Oh, yeah. Even if you're in a leadership role, whether you're owning a business, whether you're pastoring, whether you're a CEO, CFO, whatever leadership role you're in, mother, father, husband, wife, whatever leadership role you're in, you have to take those moments to adhere to God, even if it feels like you're taking a step back. Because I think that's what it is. That's what we fear. We're taking a step back. We're supposed to be progressing because that's what everybody doing on social media, right? Everybody leveling up. Everybody got to glow up. Everybody progressing. These might be old terms. I don't know. Yeah. But the reality is everybody's moving to another level. And right when God is kind of telling you to heal, right when God is telling you to stop and maybe slow down just so I can replenish you, just so I can revitalize your soul, we're afraid to do that because we're afraid to miss out. We're afraid that we're no longer progressing, or we're afraid that the person that we've been ministering to, or the person we've been helping, or the person next to us, or that we've been watching is going, you know, progress further than us. It's fear of missing out. It's a level of fear that I think stops us from healing.
It's a lot of FOMO there, because if you think about, okay, so the ministry that we came out of, right? World Changers, 30,000 members, everybody, you know, all over the globe, blah, blah, blah. You got the dollars, right? So the expectation is for us to be Creflo and Taffy Jr., you know? And then when we do branch out and you do look at the other ministries that have the money and the resources to be all on social media, you know, so you can see Transformation Church and they got all their stuff going on, and you know what I mean, and like Elevation and they got all their stuff going on. You see all these different churches all over the globe doing all these different things. The comparison really, if you don't tune into God, you can easily get caught up in what someone else is doing and think that that's what you're called to do as well. Or you get so jealous of what they're doing, then you start to come against what they're doing as well. I done seen so much Mike Todd hate, and I'm just sitting here like, golly, like, y'all really think y'all God, like, you know what I'm saying? And it's literally like, you can see that you can see that with the larger ministries, and it don't matter who it is. As soon as like somebody gets something that goes viral and you go in these comments, you see a lot of people in support, you see a lot of people that's hating, and you're just sitting here like, man, like we go so hard at people for wanting to bring the gospel to others. And if they're doing it more than us, the hate is like, it's there. Like you say, you're looking at the next person and all of that. And it's just it's so messy. Like, that's one thing that kind of like switching up real quick. That's one thing that I get frustrated about, and almost like, I won't necessarily say I'm in fear about, but I know me. And I know me, and everybody that knows us knows how hard we did things for others in ministry. And if I were to get on social media and do something knowing that my full intention is to bring glory to God, my full intention is to bring people and reconcile people back to God, which what we were called to do, or are called to do, to be taken out of context and be twisted by other quote unquote believers, by quote unquote Christian influencers. Y'all gonna hear me. I don't really I don't like Christian influencers, but you know what I'm saying, that's we'll talk about that another time. But to get to see things being twisted and misconstrued based off of a 15-second clip, 30-second clip, minute clip, those are the things that frustrate me the most, because I know how hard we used to go when we had our church. Yeah. I know the phone calls that we would get. And I know when we would hang up the phone, how we would pray for people and how we would put our money together to go help these certain people out to do these certain things. Like, you can't tell me that I wasn't doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so that, for me, that is like, I'm not saying that we're not called to open up another church, but I just know me, like, now, Rob, now, like, you might not catch the glossed over, you know what I'm saying? You might not catch that, because I know, like, yeah, you gonna come, you know what I'm saying? Like I call them keyboard gangsters all day long, because you can jump on somebody comment and you can say a whole lot of stuff, but you ain't gonna they say it to my face. You know what I mean?
What if they do? What you gonna do? No,
what I'm gonna do? I mean, look. You talking about? I'm like, nuck if you buck. I ain't gonna nuck if you buck. Not unless you. I mean, if you want it. No, seriously. But it's more so about, like, if I can get you to sit in this chair, one of these chairs, to have a conversation, best believe I'm gonna push back. You know what I'm saying? Best believe, and I'm gonna show you my heart, and I'm gonna show you the reason behind it. But a lot of people, they would rather sit in the comfort of their home, their bed, or whatever, and put a few comments out there and judge and criticize and not really look at what the person is really trying to do. And that's what I do when I look at a lot of these ministers and stuff like that. And that's probably because coming out of World Changers and hearing all the stuff, that people have said about the dollars, but we know them. Mm-hmm. And we know, like, when everybody turned their back on us, guess who was riding with us? It was them. So I don't know. It's just about, like, I would do it again. If God says, you know what, Rob, it's time for you to do it. Absolutely.
You would.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Me, Kris, we're going to have some conversations. Absolutely. I don't think it's going to look like it looked before.
Right.
In a lot of ways. You said something last time when you were just like, you looked at us doing it together. I think more so before it was like a me thing, and then, no, excuse me, I think it would necessarily be like us together. Mm-hmm. And I'll be fine with that. Mm-hmm. You know, I ain't got to preach every Sunday. Mm-hmm. You know, I like to be amongst the people.
Tell the truth. You was like, I don't like preaching every Sunday.
No, seriously. I think that that's so funny because the first Sunday, y'all, we got through our first Sunday, and I told her, I said, Sunday come every week.
Yes, it does.
And that's the thing that people don't understand. It's different when you get a phone call to do a message in about 3 weeks. So you got time to prepare, or you know what I'm saying? But the thing is, you got a new message series that you're like, okay, cool, I got some time to prepare. But then you got to do it the first week, the second week, the third week. Then you got to close it out the fourth week. And then you still got to get a word for the next one. Or like some people, they build out their whole calendar for the whole year and all these different things. I'm going to tell y'all, like, that is rough. That was rough on your boy, because I didn't think that through. Like, I know I said yes to God, but I was like, God, I don't know about.
It's another level of responsibility.
Because it's a whole nother level of responsibility. Because sometimes you don't even get none until you get that Saturday night special. 3 hours, you got to preach in 3 hours, and you ain't have nothing.
Like, I hope I bless the people.
I hope I bless the people. Like, but that's why I was so glad that I had you. Because let me tell y'all.
Oh, yes, you would.
Y'all. I would put Kris on the spot. I would put Kris on the spot, and I know it wasn't right, but I knew Kris always in the belly of her soul always had a word. She always had a word.
Tell people what you would do. What would you do?
What
would you do?
It only happened twice.
Don't even try it. It happened more than twice. Don't do it. See, you always tell it that way.
It's twice.
It was not twice.
One time, what?
Don't start playing the violin.
I'm gonna say this because I don't want to take it all the way that way. But one time there was a major situation that happened in my life, and I got up and I was prepared to do it, but I was so because I lost a close friend of mine, I couldn't do it, and I said, Kris, can you come up? And y'all, when I tell y'all she rock shocked the house, I'm talking about a whole hour later. I'm talking about people was like, and I was like, I knew that was God. Because I knew I wasn't going to do that. I was going to be up there crying, snotty nose or whatever, just trying to get through the message. Okay,
you pulling on people's heartstrings now. Let's go ahead to the other times when you weren't in the middle of a challenging situation. You just didn't have a message prepared.
Yeah, no, listen, no, yeah, because there was some time when that last building where I just was like, I ain't got nothing. Like, I ain't got nothing for you. But you know what, though?
And what would you do?
Kris.
I just need you to lay this out. What would you do?
Babe.
Talk about a real help me. What would you do?
Oh, real help me? But the thing is, I knew you had a word. I would have put it on my shoulders if I knew you didn't have a word, but I knew you always had a word.
I feel like you pimping God in me. Like, I just... Look, see, I know you got a word, so...
Look, but I knew... But see, that's the thing. Like, I knew this is the whole pastoring together thing. It's knowing that... And the best believe, moving forward, like, should we ever do this again? Best believe, I'm going to be ready because I know there may be some times where she might be like, Rob, you got it today. And before she probably could have did that, and I'd have been like, ain't got nothing for you, folk. We finna tell these people we dismissed. We out.
Now we gonna pray and leave.
Like, we gonna pray and leave, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? We out. God bless you. But now, especially knowing my relationship with God now, and now one of the things that I learned the most those last weeks leading up to closing the church was to depend on God for those messages. If y'all go back and listen to the messages, maybe the last 6 to 10 weeks that we had our church, those were my best messages. those were the ones where it was nothing but God. I literally would spend some time with some scriptures and be like, all right, God, you're going to have to do it. Ain't no outline. Ain't no storytelling, storyline. Ain't none of that type stuff. 5 points, 3 points, and none of that stuff. It was straight ministry from the heart, from the throne, straight to y'all. And that's what I had learned that. I had to learn that because I couldn't. You was mad. Well, not mad, but I ain't want to just be like
rocking with you.
Yeah, you wasn't rocking with. I ain't want to be like, Kris again. Can you?
Nah, it would have been like
I wasn't gonna. Nah, it wasn't gonna be that. But, man, like just thinking about like total dependency on God, like that was it there. That's when I understood all the years that you would do that, like the last minute thing. I got it. You remember when I said, how do you do it? We was outside of Old Charlie's. We was going to meet my family, I think for my parents, they love to, everybody's birthday, we always got to go out to dinner somewhere. So this place was, I think we was just doing the Old Charlie's this time, and we was waiting for them to pull up. And I said, Kris, how do you do it? And she was like, what you mean? I said, how do you do it? Like, how do you do it? Not how do you hear from God, but how do you depend on him? And she was like, I just do. And she started telling me, and I didn't click. It didn't click because it was still me thinking about what I could do, how I could do things, me in the methodical, analytical mind that I am. And it took all the way up to them last 6 to 10 weeks for the most powerful messages to come out of me because it was full dependence on God. Yeah. And
but that's what I said though. When you come to the end of yourself,
you did say that, yeah.
Yeah, when you realize there's nothing more that I can do.
You did say that.
And so when it would come to those moments where you would be like, I don't have a word, can you preach this morning? It would literally be that morning. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's not just you, because I do have some pastors who would call on a Saturday and be like, I'm not feeling well, or, you know, something just happened and I can't get up, and you're the first person I thought to call, and they want me to preach at their church that Sunday. And so I think people know that anything that I do is 100% God.
Yep.
You know, and so I literally get to a point where I'm like, okay, I can't do this, you know, by myself.
Right.
Everything has to funnel through you. And so for me, it's just 100% God. And so I think that was the response that I would give, is when you come to the end of yourself, that is when you have full faith and trust in God.
Yeah.
Is when you're in a space where you're just like, all of you and none of me. And you literally mean that thing. Yeah. Now, don't get me lie. Is it a lot of fear? Absolutely.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I be up there, palms sweating, legs trembling. And it's like people are shocked because they're like, man, it sounds like you're so bold and confident. Like, I literally be up there sometimes.
Cause you be asking for props. You be like, go to the store and get me this. Go to the back and get me that. Go get me this. And it don't be like the whole, cause you know, everybody do the whole water, the glass and the half full and pouring the water. And it wasn't that, y'all. Like, these were legit, like, did you really think this all the way through? Cause she pulling out the stuff and then it would come together. I remember that one time you had, cause we were at a facility that was 2 doors down from a Family Dollar. Mm-hmm. You remember that? Mm-hmm. And you asked them to go, or me, it might've been me, to go and get some Hot Wheels and some Legos. And y'all, the sermon illustration out of them Hot Wheels and Legos is something that she just came up the top of her head. I said, Lord, this woman here from God. This ain't no, no, because you would do that so many different times. And that's why people would think like that you prepared it or whatever, because the way the sermon illustrations and how God drops those in your mind right then. Yeah. To where we ain't got to have no budget for it. Now go down to the store, grab the stuff, bring it back, and I'm going to show you how this thing is.
Yeah, because it's just him, you know, and that's just, I mean, I would say practically when it comes to depending on God, it's like you could be in the middle of fear, mm-hmm. and you could be in a space where you are overwhelmed and you're trembling, but you press forward. I think when you press forward, that is overcoming your fear. That is overcoming it all, just to have full dependency in him. And, you know, that's it.
Yeah. That full dependency is very, now, like, that's how I live. Like, it's very interesting, again, going back to like social media and how people frame things and how even people look at scripture right now. It's very interesting now because like I knew the word and I know the word front and back, right? But when it comes to life on the inside of you, not necessarily the word for word, but the revelation behind it all. And now when you think of things like, when you read scripture like pray without ceasing, people will be like, how do you pray without ceasing? Because I got to do this, I got to do that. It's like, no, pray without ceasing is living every single day with that conversation with God. Like from the moment you wake up. And it's not like, good morning, God. Good morning, Jesus. Not like that, but it's more so like waking up and just hearing and listening and being cognizant of when you're going down the stairs and listening for his voice and just being totally aware that he's always around. He's ever present in your life. And that's the way I live right now, so much to where like that full dependence is just increased so much. And I believe that's why I've been able to be in the place where I am in just such peace and not having to feel like I have to be in competition with anybody else. Cause it's like, it's literally me and God all day long, morning, noon, and night. And that's what the pray without ceasing is.
Yeah. So what is one, I guess.
Oh, you asking me a question?
Yes. What is one bit of advice that you would give to any pastor or leader out there who may be in a space where they're trying to decide what's next, or where they may be feeling overwhelmed, stretched, and questioning the position they're in, maybe in a space where they're at the end and they are ready to just completely give up and they feel like it's over, or they're dealing with that depression or that heaviness and they don't know where to go next. What is, in a quick moment, what would you say to encourage them?
It's okay to stop. It's okay to stop. Ministry is inexhaustible. It's always going to be there. It's okay to stop. It's okay to stop. And a lot of times people think like, oh, I can't stop. My ministry can't do without me. Well, that ain't the ministry. That's you trying to carry everything on your own. That's God's ministry. And God is going to see and make sure that all of them people in that ministry is going to be taken care of. Before you ever were thought of, bruh, sis, God was there taking care of people, and he will continue to take care of people. But for you, it's okay to stop, recalculate, regroup, take the pit stop, and figure out what you need to do to better your life and to better your life, the life of your family. Because guess what? Your kids are looking at you. Your kids know when you're miserable. Your kids know when you don't want to spend no time with them. Your wife know when you're miserable. Your wife know when you don't want to spend no time with her, and you always focusing on the church and the ministry and all these different things. No, it's okay to stop. Like, that's the first thing that I would tell you to do. And reevaluate, right? I tell pastors all the time, if your skill set is only ministry, we got a problem. Even Jesus was known as a carpenter. You know what I'm saying? So there was a skill set there. And if you feel like your skill set is just to get up and preach, we got a problem. There's some other things that I believe that God has called you to do that can help sustain you and your family. So if this is a situation where you're showing up and you're just not, you're copying other pastors' messages, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, or like our friends say, robbing Peter and Paul. You know what I'm saying? And you're doing whatever it takes just to so-called keep the church going. Number one, you got to know that that's God's ministry. And however you unplug, God is going to take care of them people, period. When we closed our church, we unplugged. Mm-hmm. That's why it took us 4 years to really even bring it up to talk to y'all about it, because we literally unplugged and we didn't have nothing for nobody except we had to take care of ourselves. That's it. So for y'all that's out there that's considering, that's thinking that you feel like this might be it for you. And there's something on the other side, and God is still going to have you do great things. And you're still going to be able to change lives. And you're still going to be able to do so many different things. But this right here, the time might be up. We were taught once you stepped into pastoring, you had to pastor for the rest of your life. The only reason why we were taught that is because we have people in our lives that are police officers for the rest of their life, firefighters for the rest of their life. They worked at GM, they worked at Ford for the rest of their life, right? That's how life was in those days. You would get a job and you would stick to that job 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But look how the culture has changed in every other industry. You got people that are changing jobs 2 and 3 years, and guess what? That is okay. Like, that is a norm. I remember when I left my last job and I went to where I am currently, and I thought I was carrying something big and bold because I was on that job for 8 years. And guess what? The recruiter asked me, why were you there for so long? I thought I was doing the right thing. Well, guess what? Some of y'all out there, why are you still pastoring in that capacity? Maybe God really wants you to do something differently. And it's going to take you to stop and recalibrate and really truly find out what that is.
Or maybe he wants you to keep pastoring, but take a moment to connect further or deeper with him, because maybe you've been strategizing or moving kind of in your own way. Whatever it is, I agree. It's okay to stop. It's okay to take a moment to breathe, to reconnect with God, to allow him to refuel, revitalize, because that's the pit stop, right?
That's the pit stop.
You may be in the pit stop, and maybe you may get revitalized to continue pastoring, or maybe God says, hey, let's go in a different direction. Whatever it is, take that time with him to hear what he's leading or guiding you to go. I remember, and we can, close with this. Remember our pastor, we were in a counseling session. I remember he said, if I had to close my church today, he says, as long as I have Jesus, I have everything.
That was so good. That was so good.
He said, as long as I have Jesus, I have everything. If I had to close my church today, as long as I have God. And that's where we have to get to. As long as we know that we have him within us and we have him, everything is going to be all right. Everything.
Amen. I think that's it. I think that's it. I think we don't need to go no further. So thank y'all again for joining us. Y'all are going to start seeing some amazing things come from us as far as this ministry is concerned and what God is calling us to do. Stay tuned for more episodes. We got a lot more in store. And that's a wrap.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
We chose us.
We chose us. All right, y'all.
You and these long episodes.
Love is beautiful, but let's be real. It ain't always easy. We've been through the storms, the highs, the lows, and everything in between.
But through it all, we made a choice again and again. We chose love. We chose commitment. We chose us.
Because marriage isn't just about saying I do. It's about choosing to stay.
Welcome to We Chose Us, because love is worth the fight.